All right, page 52 in your supplements. And we've been talking the last couple days about different types of investments. Ways that you can invest in a business or a corporation, or in some cases even in a government project, and make money by doing it. What are those two types of investments we've been talking about? Bryson? Not bonds. You're right about stocks. No, stocks and bonds. Stocks and bonds. There we go. And as we talked about stocks and bonds, it was important to understand the difference. One of these, you become a part owner in the corporation. Now, obviously, that couldn't be a government, but a business. You become a part owner in the business. Which of those, a stock or a bond, are you part owner?
Stock.
Stock, you're a part owner in the business. And as a result, if the business does well, you might get a payout at the end of every quarter. What do we call a payout that stockholders will get sometimes if a business is doing well? Jalen?
Wait, no, that's not right.
Luciana?
Dividend?
Dividend. What is it, Jalen?
Dividend.
A dividend is a payout at the end of every quarter that a business that's doing really well will give to its stockholders. Also, if you own enough shares of stock in a company, you might get to have a little bit of say in the decisions that the company is making, the direction the company is heading, and you get some voting privileges in some instances. That's not how most people make their money in the stock market, though. They're not waiting every quarter for dividends to roll in and making big bucks off of that. Let's be real. That's not where the money's made at. The real money is made on buying a stock while the price is low and selling it when the price is high. We call this capital gains. Now, when I talk about the price of stock, we don't call it price in the stock market. They refer to it as the stock quotation or the stock quote. And stock quotes aren't written with dollar signs. So when you see a quotation of whatever, class, that's just talking about the price, the money it takes to get that share of stock. Sometimes when you buy stock, you have to pay a commission, sometimes called a what, Griffin? Pay commission to the guy you buy it from or the company you buy it from. Corey, what do you call that commission you pay to the stockbroker who sells you the shares of stock? The brokerage fee. There we go. That's the commission on the sale of the stock or the purchase of the stock. And you buy your stock and you hold on to it as long as you want to. If you want to sit there and collect dividends and wait for the price to get higher and higher and higher and higher, and then you're like, okay, I need the money now. Or, this price is really high. I've got a feeling prices are going to start coming back down soon. You try to gauge the market. Okay, I'm going to sell now. And you sell while the price is nice and high. You get capital gains. If you buy it while it's expensiver, hoping it goes up and the price goes down. You're like, you know what, forget this. I just want some money back. I know I can't get all my money back, but I want some money back. Well, then, class, you end up taking a capital loss. And so it's wise not to own all your stock just in one company because you really need that company to do well, but own a lot of different stocks in a lot of different companies if you're an investor. What's that word? It starts with a D for owning stock in a lot of different companies. What's that called, Elaine?
Is it dissipating?
Not dissipating.
Diversity?
It has to do with diversity. You have a diversity of assets, but the verb form of that would be to diversify. You diversify your assets. Then we talk about bonds, and we said when you buy a bond, you are not a part owner. You are merely, what was the word for it? You're doing what with your money? You are loaning it out. You're technically loaning it out, but you have a guaranteed return one day. When you buy a bond, there is a value that is printed on the bond. That is how much you get back when you cash it in. What do we call the printed, starts with the letter P, printed value of a bond? Griffin? Oh, we did not study last night. Kirsten?
Par value?
The par value. It's sometimes called the face value because it's also on the face of the bond. But the par value or face value is how much you're going to get back. That is hopefully not what you pay for the bond. Okay, in an ideal world, you're going to pay less than that, right? So that way when you cash it in, you get more money than you paid. That all make sense? And so what do we call the value you actually have to pay for a bond? It's not the par value or face value. We call it, Michael, the
Market value.
market value. Class, what do you pay for a bond? Market value. And you get back the par value or the face value. And that's one way you make money on the bond. But you also make money every year. In most cases, bonds will give you an interest payment, not on what you paid. but on that par value, on that face value. What are those interest payments called? Usually once a year, sometimes twice a year, that you get from owning bonds. Sounds like something frugal people might use to save money, but it has nothing to do with saving money on products. What's that term? Jalen? Not year-end payout.
Coupon payments.
Coupon payments. There we go, coupon payments. And so you get these coupon payments. It's just an interest payment at the end of every year. And so you get that money every year. Plus, when you cash in the bonds, you get the par value back. And so that's how hopefully you make money. Sometimes to buy bonds, you have to pay a brokerage fee there as well. Not always. And so that's what the homework was kind of working on. As you look at page 52, look at the bottom, you see some kind of a breakdown of the difference, right? Stocks, you own a part of the company. It's equity. You own part of the company. Bonds, all it is a debt instrument. It's a loan. Okay? Return, you make dividends on stocks if the company does well. For bonds, you make interest called coupon payments. Is there a guaranteed return on stocks? Nope. You don't know what's going to happen. With bonds, yes. Unless the company goes bankrupt, you are guaranteed you're going to get this money back. And notice on the bonds, the additional benefit is preferential treatment when the bond, what's that next word, class? Matures. Remember, mature refers to when the bond is ready for you to cash it in. So when you buy a bond, you can't buy a bond one day and cash it in the next. You have to wait, sometimes 1 year, sometimes 3 years, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 10 years, right? You have to wait for the bond class to mature. And when it reaches that maturity date, you cash in the bond, you get your money back. Make sense? But you get what's called preferential treatment, meaning this. The company has bondholders and stockholders. Stockholders want dividends, but bondholders have to get their par values back. They have to pay the bondholders first. What if there's no money left for the stockholders? Oh well, they don't get a dividend this quarter, but we have to pay our bondholders back. See, you're given first choice. If there's money left, stockholders get stuff, but you're guaranteed to get your money. So again, bonds are safer, less risky, but there's also not the huge profit potential there. Let's take a look at the homework, page 52. And had some algebra review to do there at the top, some evaluation where you plug in numbers and follow order of operations. Let's see how we did on those very quickly. Number 1, what did you get for your answer, Corey?
-1.
-1. Number 2, Luciana.
-11.
-11. Number 3, Bryson. What'd you get for number 3, Bryson? 50,000? Ooh, okay, Griffin, we'll go over that in a minute.
6.
Ooh, close, but no.
5.
5. So you've gotten 5 for number 3. Let's go back to Griffin for number 4.
4.
Oh, he's close, sort of. You, Jalen.
-9.
Not -9.
That's what I had.
You had -9 also.
-5.
-5 is correct. Good, Joel. All right, third tries to charm Griffin. Number 5.
24.
24, there we go. And then number 6, let's go back to Michael.
40.
Close, Jalen.
I had 40.
You also had 40. Elaine?
-40.
-40. Water cup there, Jalen. Let's take a look at these. Remember on numerical evaluation, you just plug in numbers. So number 1 isn't instead of A class, right?
5.
5. And then instead of B class, right?
-2.
And then instead of C class, right?
4.
Do we ever really subtract numbers though, class? We add the...
Inverse.
We add the inverse class. Do we really subtract?
No.
We
add the inverse.
There we go. So we're going to change this to adding a -4, which is why if you combine the negatives class, that gives you
-6.
-6. There's only one positive, that's +5. Subtract, keep the sign of the greater. Look at number 2. We have to multiply B, -2, by 3. We have to multiply D, -1, by 5. What is 3 times -2, class? -6. What is 5 times -1?
-5.
They're both negative. Signs are the same. Add and keep the sign. There's -11. Look at number 3, Bryson. We've got a 5 times B, which is -2, times D, which is -1, minus A, which is 5. Well, again, we don't want to minus 5. We want to add the inverse. So let's make this say plus -5. Right here, we have to multiply all of these 3 numbers together, Bryson. I've got 2 negatives, first of all. That gives me a positive, because that's an even number of negatives. 5 times 2 times 1. And then we're going to add a -5. And 10 plus -5 is +5 when you subtract the sign of greater. Does that make sense now? Looking at number 4, Griffin, we've got B, which is -2, minus, it says A, which is 5, minus 2 times, and it says D is -1. Well, again, Griffin, if it says minus 5, I want to change that to adding a
-5.
negative 5. And right here I need to multiply. What is a negative 2 times a negative 1 going to give us?
+2.
Positive 2. So I've got a negative 2 here, I've got a negative 5 here, and I've got a positive 2 here. Well, class, negative 2 and positive 2?
0.
Cancel. Right? So all I'm left with is negative 5, and there's my answer. So we have a little bit of a shortcut we could use there. Number 5, multiply 5 times 4, class. 20, and then add 4 more. There's the 24 Griffin gave us. And on number 6, we're going to literally multiply all 3 values together. Well, 2 of them are...
Negative.
Oh, I just realized I
Yeah.
have negative 40.
Yeah.
That is not correct. All right, my answer key is wrong. Again. All right, no, we have 2 negatives, right? Negative 2 and negative 1 are the only negatives. So that's positive. And then 5 times 2 times 4 times 1 is 40. So positive 40 is correct. So, yeah, positive 40 is our answer. So I apologize for all of those screaming at their computers right now. We're sitting there in the classroom like, but there's 2 negatives, Mr. Nesky. Hang in there, I'll get there. All right, anyone do better than I did? And you went 6 for 6, unlike me. I went 5 for 6. All right, questions on those? Now that we've gone over them. Questions on those? I'm human too. All right, questions. Well, let's take a look at the math now. Get your calculators at the ready. And Susie buys 5 $1,000 bonds. Class, does that mean she pays $1,000 for every bond?
No.
No, that's what is printed. That's the
Par value.
par value of the bond. It says she only pays how much for every bond, class?
$999.
And she bought how many of them?
5.
5 of them. Now, it says they're 10-year bonds. That means she has to wait how long for the bonds to mature?
10 years.
She's got to wait 10 years, because it's a 10-year bond. She's got to wait 10 years for the bond to mature. So she's spending money now, and she's not going to get her money back for 10 more years. Now, she is going to get something, though. It says that she receives coupon payments, but it's not a very big percentage. Class, her coupon payment is only
2%.
2%. That's not terrible. I mean, it's better in a savings account, right? You put the money in a savings account, you're not going to get that. Put it in a CD, you'll get better than that. But anyway, so she pays $990 for every bond. So when question number 1 says, how much does she pay for the bonds? What do I need to do, Corey?
Multiply 990 by 5.
There we go. And what did you get?
4,950.
I just did 4,950. How many had for number 1? The number 7, the first part, she pays $4,950 for the bonds. How many said she pays 5,000? Okay, questions on part number 1. I don't see how it could be easier, people. She pays $990 for each bond, and she bought 5 of them, right? Like, questions? All right, don't make this hard. Don't make something easy hard by overthinking. This is pretty straightforward. Now, number 2 does involve a little bit of math. How much will she earn in coupon payments? And I said, when you think coupon payment, class, a coupon payment is what? Interest. Now, it is 2%, right, for this particular problem. But in general, when you think coupon payment, class, think interest. How do I find interest?
I equals PRT.
I equals PRT. Now, every year she gets her coupon payments. So how much will she earn in coupon payments? Well, what's her principal?
Wait, 4,000.
Class,
4,000.
remember, the coupon payment is paid not on what she paid. The coupon payment is based on the printed value.
1,000.
She's getting, the principal on every single one is $1,000. Now, if you wanted to, though, you'd be like, well, there were 5 of them. So really, what's the principal here?
5,000.
She's getting paid interest as if there's 5,000 because that is what she's owed. She didn't have to pay that, but that's what she's owed. That's the principal. Does that make sense? This was something that might not have been as emphasized yesterday. So again, number 1, I'm like, you missed that? Come on now. This one, okay, I'll give you a little slack here, but does it make sense now? The value of her investment is $5,000. That's not what she paid for it, but that's the value. Does everyone see that? Shake or rattle. Give me some feedback here, people. All right. Then the rate. Well, I told you the rate. Ben said it. It's what?
2%.
2%. But we're not going to write 2%, Ben. We're going to make it a decimal.
0.02.
And then the time is going to be, class,
1 year.
1 year, but it's going to come over a period of 10 of them. If you put 10, you're not wrong, because it doesn't compound. So you could say, well, it's every year, and then we're going to multiply that by 10. You could just put in the time of 10, because it's a total of 10 years she's going to keep collecting interest. The thing is, she's going to get, if we multiply by 1, it's every single coupon payment she gets. She's going to wind up with 10 of them anyway. So you could just put the 10 in here. I think it'd be better for us, though, to put the 1 so we can see every year first. So let's take $5,000 value investment, 2% times 1. How much does she get every year?
$100.
$100. Make sense? Every year she gets $100. Yes?
I got the right answer, but I divided 1,000 by 10.
Why would you divide 1,000 by 10? Yeah. Okay, so she's got $5,000 invested, 2% every year. Every year she makes $100. Does everybody see that? Okay, but it said how much is she earning coupon payments total? Well, she's getting coupon payments for how many years, class? 10 years, right? They're 10-year, bless you, bonds. So every year while she waits for the bonds to mature, bless you, she's collecting. So how much does she get? Now, here's the final answer for number 2. How much does she get total, class?
1,000.
She gets $1,000 in coupon payments. Coupon payments of 1,000. Does it make sense now if you missed it before? Again, that's what the purpose of homework is. It's not to be perfect. It's to learn if we make mistakes. So it's okay if you missed it. Do we understand it now? All right, remembering we have a test on Friday. All right, number 3 says, how much will the U.S. Treasury pay her back in 10 years? Well, every year the Treasury pays her $100, right? So by the time 10 years have passed, they've already paid her $1,000. But when the bonds mature, class, she's going to get the full lump sum back. What is she going to get when the bonds mature? Well, every bond class has what par value?
$1,000.
And she had how many of them?
5.
5 of them. She's going to count that she had 5 $1,000 bonds. So how much she going to get?
$5,000.
$5,000. That seem easy enough? All right. Now, number 4. How much will she make in both coupon payments and paid back bonds? Well, this is paid back bonds, right? $5,000, paid back bonds. Coupon payments, 1,000. So let's not make this too hard. How much money has she gotten from the U.S. Treasury?
6,000.
Total, she gets 6,000. Does that mean she profited 6,000, class?
No.
No, because it cost her how much to get the bonds in the first place.
4,950.
4,950. So the final question is, what is her total profit? How much money does she make on this investment? And our answer there should be, find it very quickly if you don't already have it.
1,050.
$1,050. $1,050 she makes. Another way to think of this is $5,000 worth of bonds, right? She only paid $4,950, so she's guaranteed to profit $50 right off the top. Plus, she got 1,000 in coupon payments. There's your $1,050. Think of them either way. Do we understand bonds better having done number 7 and talked through it now? Even if we missed it, even if we missed every part of it, do we understand it better now? That's the objective. All right, look at number 8. Read that for us if you would. Let's go to Joel. Read number 8. Not all the little parts, but just the main problem.
Susie also buys 30 shares of stock in a company at a quote of 165. The company pays quarterly dividends of $1.10 for each share. She keeps her shares of stock for 10 years before selling it at a quote of $171.21.
All right. So, number 1, how much does she pay? Well, it doesn't mention a brokerage fee. So this is probably a commission-free sale. Bought it through some website that doesn't charge a commission or a brokerage fee. Every share she has to pay how much, class?
160.
Look at the problem. Don't shrug your shoulders. Look at the problem. What's the quote on the stock, class? 165. And she buys how many shares?
30.
So what do you suppose we should do?
165 times 30.
165 times 30, right? And so how much does she have to pay for these shares of stock? Interesting. Kirsten?
$4,950.
That's the same as she paid for the bonds, isn't it, class? So she paid the same amount for the stocks as she did for the bonds. All right, the next question is, how much will she earn in total dividends? Remember, we had total coupon payments of $1,000 in the previous problem. Well, you don't get coupon payments with stocks, you get dividends, hopefully. She does get dividends. Now, this is a little unrealistic. Usually dividends are not the same every quarter for 10 years, okay? That's a little unrealistic, but this particular problem, just to make it easier math for you, $1.10 every share, every quarter. Does that make sense? So we need to multiply $1.10 for every share. How many shares, class? 30. But that's every quarter. How many quarters are in a year?
4.
4, just like there's 4 quarters in a dollar. So we don't multiply that by 4 to see every year. So this tells you how much every time they issue dividends. How much does she get every time they issue dividends, class? 33. But that's 4 times a year. So every year she gets how much? $132. But that's for how many years, class?
10 years.
She keeps her shares of stock for 10 years. So that's for 10 years. So what's her total dividend going to wind up being, class?
$1,320.
Hey, that's even better than her coupon payments, isn't it? Okay? So her coupon payments paid her $1,000 over the course of 10 years. She gets $1,320 in dividends over the course of 10 years. So far the stocks are winning. Then she sells her stock. How much stock did she have again?
30.
30 shares, right? And she sold it, but what was the quote or the price of the stock when she sold?
165.
No, that's when she bought it. When she sold it, what was the quote?
171.
171.2, right? That was the quote when she sold it. So how do we figure out how much she got when she sold it?
Subtract, add, wait.
30 shares. 171.2 for every share, right? So how do we figure out how much she got when she sold her stock? Multiply. 30 times 171.2. Right? If the quote class, quote is the price for every share. And she has 30 of these shares she's selling. Right? If I have 30 footballs I'm selling to Michael, and I sell each one of them for $10, which would be a real steal, by the way, he'd be paying $300 because you just multiply, right? Well, these are shares of stock, but you still multiply the number of shares times the price that she's getting back when she sells them. How much does she get when she sells her stock, class?
$5,136.
There we go. That's how much she got when she sold it. So got when she sold it, this is her dividend. Do you see that this is money she gets, class? That's money she gets. So the question says, number 4, how much will she make in both dividends and sale of stock? What do we need to do? Add the 2 numbers together. How much does she get when she dividends, collects money, and then sells the stock off? She gets
$4,456.
Now, that's not pure profit, though, because remember, she had to buy the stock in the first place, right? How much did she pay for all the stock when she first got it?
$4,950.
$4,950, right? The answer to part 1. So that's what she paid. This is what she's made. How do we find out what her actual profit is in number 5, class? Subtract to get.
$1,506.
There we go, $1,506. So over 10 years, Susie's been busy with both bonds and stocks. And if you were to add those 2 number 5s together, it'd be what, $2,556? Over the course of 10 years, that's a little over $250 a year doing nothing. The only problem is you have to have about $10,000 up front you can invest in order to make that kind of money. So it helps if you have money, you can make money is how that works. Questions on all that? All right, the rest of the homework was on page 56. We're going to look at that in our next lesson. So we're going to hold off on page 56. We'll look at that next time. Flip back to the previous page, page 51. Because we were working on bonds yesterday, but we didn't quite finish. I want to make sure we finish now. And what we've looked at so far, class, has been from the perspective of the investor, right? Well, what about the business? Why does a business sell stock? Why does a business or municipality sell bonds? Why would they sell stuff? To make money. Now, they know they're going to have to pay back more later, right? Why would a business take a loss? Why would a business say, you know what? If you give me $1,000 today, I'll give you $1,500 later. I mean, I'm guaranteed to take a loss. Why would I do that? Because I need money now. And the more money I have now, the more hopefully I can make, right? So I'm like, I need to buy, let's say I want to open a hamburger stand out on the Riverwalk, okay? I need the money to buy all the stuff. And I'm going to bank on the fact that I'm going to make so much in sales with my amazing hamburgers that I'm going to be able to afford to pay him back and still have money left over for me. Does that make sense? So that's why the business does this. Let's look at problem number 5 there on page 51. And let's have Corey read this for us.
City of Alexandria sold 487 5 years $100 bonds to fund the construction of a new recreation center. The market value for these bonds was $98. How much money did the city make?
All right, so class, what is the par value of these bonds?
$100.
$100. But that's not what people are paying for them, because you don't pay the par value, you pay the market value. How much does it say that people paid for every bond? $98. So when the city's like, hey, we're selling bonds, buy bonds from us. We really want to build a new rec center, new football fields, baseball fields, soccer fields. We want to have it all, and we have no money. You guys have money, buy bonds. You'll make money if you invest in us. And so people are like, okay, $98 for a bond, huh? Sure. So people pay $98 for a bond. How many bonds do they sell?
487.
At your seats, how much did the city get, bam, during this bond drive? How much money does the city get during the bond drive? I don't know if this is actually enough to actually fund construction of a new rec center. Seems a little low to me, but you know, whatever, Corey.
$47,726.
Say that one more time.
$47,726.
Yes, for a minute I thought I heard 37,000, but no, you are correct. 47,726. That's actually problem number 5, not number 1. How many got the same answer that Corey did? All right, any questions on how to figure out how much of the money the city made? That's what all the individual customers. Question?
I got 48,700.
Okay, careful. Not times 100, because people don't pay 100. Remember, that's the par value. It's a $100 bond means that's what the printed value is. But notice it says the market value was 98. So we multiply the 497 times 98. That's how much people are actually paying the city. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, when the bonds reach maturity, though, Ben, the city doesn't pay back the 98. The city pays what's printed on the bond. And class, what's printed on those bonds? $100. So when these people come back to the city 3 years later, because they were 5-year bonds or 3-year bonds? Oh, they're 5 years, I'm sorry. 5 years later, sorry. 5 years later, when these people come back to the city, they're like, hey, I want my money. How much does the city have to give back for every bond certificate that's presented to them? The city pays back $100 on every bond, right? So number 6, excuse me, how much does the city pay back when all these bonds reach maturity? Well, now, Ben, we will multiply the 487 by
100.
to get.
48,700.
Now, does everyone realize the city is paying back more than they took in? Again, if you're just looking at raw numbers, you're like, that's a bad deal. The city just lost money. Well, wait a second. If they've got a new rec center, new fields, things like that, people are paying for memberships. People are buying uniforms to play and compete. People are maybe coming in from other cities to play and compete. People are staying in hotels in the city because they're coming and visiting to play at that rec center. And when they stay at hotels, the city gets to tax that. They're buying groceries. They're going to restaurants. The city gets to tax all of that. So the city's gambling that, yeah, it looks like we're losing about $1,000 on this gig, but we're going to make a lot more than $1,000 in tax revenue, so that's how we're going to make money. Okay? You spend money to make money in some instances, and that's kind of what the city's trying to do here. Now, number 7, though, the city doesn't just pay back the $100 per bond. The city is also issuing class coupon payments. What's the rate? 3% coupon payments every single year. The question is, how much total profit will a bondholder receive for each bond purchased? Now let's review. Coupon payment is just interest, right? Again, coupon payment class is just interest. So to find a coupon payment, I use the formula. And since it asks about each individual bond, each bond has what principal or value? 100. They didn't pay 100, but that's the value printed, so that's the principal that's being paid. The rate we said, class, was 3%, 0.03, and the time, of course, it's paid every year, so we'll say the time, bless you, is 1. So every year, every bond gets how big of a coupon payment? $3 a year per bond. That's not much, right? Well, but let's just suppose somebody had a lot of the bonds. Somebody bought a couple hundred bonds. Well, they're getting a few $100s now, right? Okay, so $3 per year per bond. Well, how many years are these people having to hold on to these bonds?
5 years.
5 years. So it's $3 a year by 5 years. How much total coupon payments have people made?
Oh, 15.
$15. This is their total coupon payments. But they make more than that, remember, because they only pay how much for their bond? $98. If they buy one bond, they pay $98. Bless you. When they cash it in, they get how much? That's an instant profit of, it's not much, but how much, class? $2. So they get $15 in coupon payments plus another $2 of just instant profit. So what is the profit per bond? $17. You don't have to do anything, right? You just go down to the city, buy the bond, wait 5 years, and by the end of 5 years, you are guaranteed to make $17, bless you, and you may go get a tissue, $17 on every single bond. Does that make sense now? All right, now again, if you wanted to, you think about it this way. That's every bond, right? And if the person is gaining $17 per bond, who's losing $17 a bond? The city. So if we wanted to figure out how much the city lost total, we can multiply that by 487 to find their total loss. But again, they're going to make back in taxes, so they're going to be okay. We're not too worried about the city. Turn over to page 53 now. Turn over to page 53, and I want you to do these without looking back. So turn your booklet this way so that you can't see the other pages. I want you to just do 1 through 6. Look at the description and determine, is that a stock or is it a bond? Write the word stock if it's a stock. Write the word bond if it's a bond. Just do 1 through 6 very quickly. Take about a minute and a half. Don't look back. Let's see what we remember. I suppose Kirsten and, well, it takes so long, but Kirsten and Ben, if you need to look back since you've been out for a couple days, that would be fine. The rest of you will not need to look back.
Oh.
Focus on your own work. So nice and tall. There you go. Good posture. All right, number 1, Elaine, guaranteed payout after a certain length of time.
Bond.
That's a bond. Part owner in a company, Joel. Number 2,
Stock.
that's a stock. Number 3, high risk but possibly high return. Kirsten,
Bond.
bonds don't really have much risk.
Stock.
That's a stock, right? Because the stock price could plummet. Your business could lose so much money, they have to sell cheap just to try to get some money back. And if that price goes down, you could lose bunches of money really quickly. But it could also do really good. So the high risk, high return is the stocks. Often receive coupon payments, Ben.
Bond.
Bond, that's the one we just did. Low risk, but usually a low return, Griffin.
Bond.
That's your bond. And then may receive a quarterly dividend. Michael?
Stock.
That's your stock. How many went 6 for 6? All right, questions on those? You weren't even here. All right, now, for number 7 through 13, see if you can get these without looking back also. If you need to look them up, okay. But 7 through 13 now. See if you can remember what each term is. You need to look them up, that's okay. See if you can get 7 through 13 now. I would say go through and answer all the ones you already know and look up the ones you don't. Answer all the ones you do know first. All right, let's take a look at these answers. You can fill in the ones you did not find. Number 7, I've used this term a few times. What do we call profit made from the sale of shares of stock that were purchased for a low price and then sold for a higher price? Jalen? Profit that you make. You buy stock cheap, you sell it high. The money you profit from that is referred to as, Corey? Capital gains. Capital gains. Go and write that term down if you didn't find it or did not remember it. Capital gains. Number 8. Let's go back to Jalen for this. The price of a share of stock. The price for a share of stock is called... Sorry, I thought I saw your hand up. Luciana?
Quotation?
The quotation or the quote. The stock quote or the quotation is the price for a share of stock. Capital is just money that a business uses to make more money. Money it uses for equipment and making a profit. Number 9, a firm that handles the buying and selling of stocks and bonds. Most of these are online now, Kirsten.
Brokerage firm?
A brokerage firm. A brokerage firm. That's the group that buys and sells stocks and bonds. You buy through them. You don't buy directly from the company usually. You go through them and they say, hey, such a deal I have for you. This company is selling for only what such and such quote. Or you could buy these bonds at a really great rate. Great coupon payments. Who could? Anyway, they're the ones that do all the selling. Number 10, money paid to stockholders each quarter if a company makes a profit. Jalen's shaking her head no. All right, let's go to Bryson. Company makes a profit. Every quarter they give blank to their stockholders, potentially. Though Amazon doesn't do this, as we mentioned yesterday. Michael? Dividend. A dividend. So a dividend is the money paid to the stockholders each quarter if a company makes a profit. That's your dividend. Number 11. Okay, here we go. Jalen, I know you got this because we've been doing a lot with this today. Interest payments made to bond holders. What do we call the interest you make on a bond? Coupon payments. There we go. Coupon payments. All right, there you go. Number 12. Class, all of us should have this. The value printed on a bond that the investor will receive when the bond matures.
Par value.
Par value. If you put face value, that's the same thing, but par value is the main term. And then number 13, the price paid for a bond class is the market value. All right, let's look at some problems together here. Back to stocks. We're working on bonds all. Let's go back to stocks now. Read number 14, if you would. Jalen.
Mr. Lawson bought 200 shares of stock in Company A at a stock quote of $18.69. Find his total investment if the brokerage fee was $108.40.
All right, at your seats. Find the answer. Company A's stock is not real expensive, so Mr. Lawson's like, I could afford this investment, so he buys 200 shares. When he buys them, the brokerage firm charges him a brokerage fee or commission of $108.40. So how much does he spend to make this investment? How much does he spend on this investment? All right, Jalen, what do we have to do?
Multiply 200 by 18.69.
Here we go, because that's the price per thing. And then once you get your answer, what do you have to do?
Add the 108.
There you go, add the $108.40 brokerage fee. And what was, for number 14, his investment? How much did he spend?
$3,738.
Well, that's how much he spent just on the stock, but he also had to pay that brokerage fee. So how much did he really end up paying?
I thought that's what you meant. 38, no. $3,846.47.
Now again, to be fair, this is how much he's put into the company itself. But this is how much he had to spend to make the investment total. How many have the $3,846.40? All right, does that make sense? Just like with bonds, number of bonds times how much you pay per bond. Number of shares times how much you pay per share. That's that quote. But number 15 is kind of sad. Kind of sadness here. Griffin, read number 15.
Company A lost money, so Mr. Lawson never received a dividend.
That's unfortunate. So no payments every quarter. Keep going.
Furthermore, Company A began to lower their stock quote.
Hold on, class. What does the quote mean?
How much
The
money?
price.
they pay?
That's the price. They're lowering their price of stock. Okay, keep going.
Mr. Lawson was worried the company would go bankrupt and sold his 200 shares when the quote was $15.
Well, yeah, we know it means $15, but technically you just say 15 for the quote.
If he paid an $87 brokerage fee on this transaction, find his loss.
Okay, so there's going to be 2 steps. First of all, class, how much does he get when he sells his shares? How much does he get when he sells his shares? So hold on, don't call it out just yet. How much does he get when he sells these shares? Griffin, what do we have to do?
Multiply 200 times 15.
But once we get that answer, which is 3,000, that's how much he got, except it said he had to pay a brokerage fee, right? So that means we have to do what with that number?
Add 87.
Oh, this is what he's getting, but you don't get the brokerage fee.
87. No, subtract.
Subtract. We're paying out.
Yeah.
So of the 3,000 he gets back, he has to pay some of that to the broker. Which, how much does he pay to the broker? Should have used a different website. How much does he pay the broker?
87.
87 bucks. So really, how much does he get back when he sells off his stock?
$2,913.
How many of $2,913 is what he gets back? Okay, so class, he paid this much to invest, and he got back that much. That didn't work too good, did it? No profit for him. He took a loss. So the question is, therefore, what is his loss? What do I have to do, class? Subtract those 2 numbers. This is very sad for Mr. Lawson. This did not go well. What do you have for his total loss here, Ben?
I was going to say something else.
All right. Got a hand from Jalen. Kirsten's got it. Give Bryson. Bryson, give me your answer. Yeah, he lost almost $1,000. Remember we said there's some risk involved in the stock market? Sometimes it goes like this. Sometimes it doesn't go so well. And you're like, man, then you go on like, hey, I got about $4,000 I can invest. Let me see how I do. And then a little bit later on, it's like, oh, I've not done well with this gig. All right, question.
Is that why his name is Lawson?
Because he lost? I actually didn't think about that. That's pretty good. Number 16. Number 16. Read that for us if you would, Ben.
Mr.
Arrowwood
owns 700 shares of stock in Company B. Last quarter, the company declared a dividend of $1.10 per share. What was his total dividend?
At your seats, find it. What dividend does he receive? Company's like, hey, we did pretty good, y'all. We're going to pay you $1.10 for every share you own. Well, he owns, class, how many shares?
700.
So what do we need to do to find his dividend, Ben?
Multiply 700 times 1.10.
There we go. And what is his dividend?
707.
Dollars. Yeah, $770. Hey, that's pretty good, right? You own all this stock and you get a check in the mail, or maybe it's deposited in your bank account. Boom, $770, and I did nothing. Well, you had to pay for 700 shares in the first place. All right, number 17. Read that for us. Let's continue to talk about Mr. Arrowwood here. Kirsten?
If Mr. Arrowwood bought his shares at $95.19, but sells them at $150, find his capital gain.
All right, so what I would do here is rather than find out how much he spent total and how much he made back total and then subtract, just figure out how much does he make on every share. What's his capital gains per share? Buys at $95.19, sells at $100.5. So every single share, it's money, money, money he's making. He's doing much better with Company B than Mr. Lawson did with Company A. How much does he make on every single share, Kirsten?
$66,000.
No. How much does he make per share? Okay, look at the problem. You just read it to me. How much does he pay to get a single share?
$95.19.
How much does he get when he sells that same share?
$150.
100.5, right? So how much does he make per share?
$70,350.
Okay. What do we have to do to figure out how much he makes per share, class?
Subtract.
Subtract. For instance, Kirsten, if you buy that calculator from me for $2, and you're like, hey, Joel, I got you, man. I'll sell it to you for $3. How much did you make? $1. Because you sold for $3, but you only paid $2. He's selling for 100.5, but he's only paid 95.19. So how much does he make per share?
$5.31.
There we go, $5.31 per share. That's how much he profits. Positive $5.31. But he had how many shares to sell?
700.
700. So what are his capital gains?
$3,717.
There we go. All right, how many had that answer? $3,717. All right, does that make sense now? All right, again, you missed the lesson on stocks. You were here, but does that make a little bit of sense? And that's the goal, is to buy cheap, sell high, make money. Question?
So, I got that answer, but if it asks for capital gains on like a test, we're not gonna, and it gives us the dividend. So
The dividend isn't actually technically part of capital gains, but that is going to lead us to our next question, Michael. Read question 18 for us.
By Mr.
Arrowwood.
total profit on his investment in company D.
So his capital gains, which is simply how much you made versus bought low, sold high. That's what you pay taxes on. You don't pay taxes on the dividend. Well, that's 1099 INT form. Anyway, so that's a separate interest. The capital gains is separate from interest. But he made this much, and he made this much in capital gains. So what's his total profit? What do we need to do?
Just asking.
And how much did he make? And this is presumably over the span of a quarter or so. Right? Does everyone see that? It's basically within the span of 1 quarter. Because it doesn't even get us to a second quarter anywhere in this problem. That's not bad. That's not bad profit here, Michael.
$4,487.
Yeah, $4,487. Now again, he had spent over $6,000 to make this investment in the first place. So if you don't have $6,000 floating around, you don't get to cash in on this. But again, if you have some money you're able to set aside and save and then invest it, you can make some pretty decent money potentially if you invest it correctly. The hard part is knowing what's the correct investment. All right, so anyway, all right, in our next lesson, we are going to finish up. We got some problems on the next page there. We're going to look over the homework as well in our next lesson. So all that coming up. We do have a quiz coming up in our next lesson. It's going to cover profit and loss in business, profit margins in business, gross profit, net profit, selling price versus cost and overhead, all that stuff, as well as stocks and bonds. So in our next lesson, we will have that quiz coming up. Do you want to amend something I said yesterday for sake of those watching on video? Those in here, your test is still Friday. I gave the wrong lesson number. For those watching on video, the test is in lesson 135. So if you scrolled ahead and like, he said the test is in 134. It says 135. It's in 135. So my apologies for that misinformation there. All right, there is no homework. Have a wonderful rest of your day. When the bell rings, it will be dismissed.